Part of what is powerful about Ozarks, being a small school, is the importance of learning in the context of social relationship. That means learning in the context of otherness, of difference, and not the kind of difference that we can just kind of run away from. It's the kind of difference that we see in the classroom, and that person who's different from us is across from us at the table in the cafeteria, maybe sitting next to us in chapel, or at an athletic event. And so to me, so much of what it means to grow in our understanding of calling, in our understanding of what is right and what is wrong, is learning how to be in rich relationship with people who are different from us.
One of our goals was to push the students to think critically about people's lives, political situations, religious organizations, any type of different group that you can be a part of that treats others differently because of something they can't control.
Well, we're taking 12 students, and they range across from students who are freshmen to seniors. We have some students who are seasoned travelers and have been part of Ozarks Abroad experiences before, and others who have actually never flown in an airplane before and don't know anything about luggage fees and things like that. So it's a great diversity. One of the nice things about that range of experience is it lets some of the older students mentor the younger ones. It doesn't all have to be the teachers teaching. It can be the other students, students teaching one another.
This is a very eclectic group of students. That's something that Dr. Daly and I were talking about recently. It's because it's a random mix that I don't know that we ever would have seen together outside of this class. But this shared interest has just brought people together. So, I mean, you have athletes, you have RTV people, you have religion people, you have Spanish majors, you have all over the map in terms of what they're majoring in terms of their personalities. And it's been really interesting to watch them have some really deep, honest, vulnerable conversations. Coming from a place where I don't know that at the very beginning they weren't willing or ready to share that much with one another or with us, which makes sense. But they're a good group. They're inquisitive. They like to push each other's buttons sometimes. So 10 days is gonna be fun. But I think on the whole, we're all really looking forward to it.
The original goal was to go to Israel, and Reverend Gabbard and I had talked about that actually from very early on when she came to Ozarks. And we worked really hard on that. Really had a whole class worked out, and with the conflicts in especially Gaza last summer, which was the time when most people would need to be making decisions and enrolling in a class. With that happening, we faced some pretty serious obstacles, not just in terms of student enrollment, but also the travel company that we're working with ended up having problems being able to put together the tour in Israel. So that began to fall through in December, which is pretty late in the game. We already had students who were enrolled in the course, and who, some of them actually are seniors who hadn't taken their religion requirement yet. And so they were counting on this to be able to meet all their graduation requirements. So, I mean, we were pretty deep into having a course and having a trip. And so when the trip fell through to Israel, we went to a backup plan. And that backup plan actually was on the table, from the very beginning, just because we knew of the volatility of the setting in Israel. So we had already and always been talking about the possibility of a different itinerary. And this one was to Central Europe, where we go to Budapest and Krakow in Poland, Budapest in Hungary, Krakow in Poland, and then Prague in Czech Republic. And what we thought we'd be able to do with that would be to have at least some continuity with our original course goals, and we could teach a class that dealt with the history and culture of Judaism, and ultimately, of course, focus on Judaism in Central Europe, which until World War II was the region that had the highest density of Jews in the world, and also, one of the richest and distinctive Jewish cultures.
We started the semester back in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Scriptures, and we've been working our way through. And we've worked our way through different time periods, different historical situations, and we got up through the Holocaust, because one of the stops on our trip is Auschwitz, and we wanted to make sure that we discuss that in particular in some length. Thinking about the way that we unwittingly fall into patterns of behavior that are not what we would call Christian. They're not the type of person that we want to be, but they're so easy to fall into those patterns and treat others in a way that we don't want to be treated ourselves. And so a lot of the students, through the course, through making presentations, through taking quizzes, through writing papers, I've seen a shift, and a lot of them actually remarked on it in their last reflection paper. It was a reflection paper on the Holocaust, and a lot of them made a comment to the effect of, now that I've been in this class, I'm more willing to listen to other people's opinions that are different than mine. And that's it. That's what we're here to do, to think about opinion, lifestyle, belief that's different, that challenges you, but to be able to clearly articulate back what you think and believe.
Anytime we're talking about religion, and especially raising questions about Christian-Jewish relations, for Christians in a class to ask the question, well, if Christians really treated Jews properly, that's tough. And for some, anything having to do with religion, there can always be a range of defenses that will be part of a response. And I've, in 15 years of teaching here, I've come to recognize that, and that's fine. I recognize that we're all on a journey, and to me, the learning trajectory is not one semester. It's, what does this class come to mean to a person 20 years down the line? And so I'm great with that. But the thing is, we already see seeds of some of those changes happening. And in student reflection papers, they've talked about things that they've said in class that, on reflection, they don't find to be wrong, but they find to be not as respectful of other points of view as what they have come to see now. And so that's a step, but it's a real form of growth, to my mind. So I'm pleased with that and proud to see that.
Well, it's go, go, go. So we're going to go to Budapest first, and we're going to see the historic parts of the city. There are just some things that you can't miss while you're there. So like when we go to Prague, obviously we're going to go to the castle. You have to. So when we're in Budapest, we're going to go see the Charles Bridge. We're going to take a We're going to take a boat tour down the Danube, which is going to be wonderful. After we go to Budapest, then we're going to go to Krakow and Auschwitz in Poland. So we're going to cross the border. Obviously, we're going to go to Auschwitz, the concentration camp part, but we're also going to go to the town. And as a class together, we watched Schindler's List one night. And I think that had a profound effect on the students that had not seen it before. And so then to be able to actually go to this place where it was filmed, I think is going to be something that has the potential to really be life-changing for all of us. So after we're in Poland, then we're going to go to Prague, and we're going to see, they have some absolutely beautiful places. The Jewish ghettos and all of these places where we were, it's heartbreaking while at the same time being very hope-giving, because you kind of get a sense of how people were forced to live in a way that was really inhumane, but at the same time, they're still here. The buildings are still standing, the temples are still there, they have all the artifacts, and there's this legacy that endures. And not to trivialize the death or the suffering that happens, but to see the long-term effects of behavior, I think is something that is helpful for all of us as we develop more fully into fully realized and actualized human beings.
Well, it's a shared discovery as far as I'm concerned. I think we're all on a journey to learn and to grow, and I'm grateful for their willingness to tackle some subjects that are very difficult. I mean, some of them actually once we determined to change the itinerary, some of them actually added late because they really wanted to study more about things like the Holocaust and the centuries of challenges that Jews have faced. So some of them really come to it very willingly, and for them a little bit sheepishly, because I feel like it's almost a perverse interest to be interested in these issues, but not to me at all, and I don't think to Reverend Gabbard either. I think for us, we recognize that part of the deepest learning that we can gain as human beings is to come face to face with the hardest questions about what humans have done to one another, and that's not that doesn't have to be a morbid thing. What it actually can be is a way to recognize our own humanity, our own shared humanity.
We're going with EF Tours, which is a really well-known company, very well trusted. And we're actually joining with 3 other colleges with their travel groups while we're over there. And Ozarks is the largest group of the 4, which is something new for us, so that'll be fun. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for our students and for our faculty and staff that are going to meet colleagues from across the country. We went with EF Tours. There were several different options that we could have taken, but we went with EF Tours because of the way that they have packaged everything together, and their emphasis and their willingness to work with us to see some things that we specifically wanted to see. We wanted to pay special attention to things like the Jewish ghetto in Prague, and make sure that we could go to some specific places, and they have been more than willing and helpful in that experience. For example, our tour guide got in contact with Dr. Daly a couple weeks ago and said, we can do a visit to Schindler's factory from Schindler's List and go to the Krakow Jewish ghetto, and we can throw that in if that's an option. So they've been really, really easy to work with.
But what we really gain in an overseas trip is another dimension. So you get all these different people who come from different backgrounds, who are then experiencing a different place, and will all experience that different place in a different way, and they'll get to learn from that. But how to hold together the fact that we can be in relationship with one another, and you can be really different from me. My being your friend doesn't mean you have to become me. You don't have to hold my views. But so that difference remains, is real, but there still can be something that you share together in common experiences. And so Ozarks Abroad pulls all of that together, the possibility of relationship in difference, the possibility of learning about how my view of the world is different from someone else's, how my view of the world may have to change in light of what I see in someone else. I mean, all of that is rich.
Hi, do you have any rooms available?
No, I'm sorry, we're overly committed tonight.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
She was really okay, they're overly committed. What could be worse is if we think we have a room and you get somewhere and they're like, we're overly committed. Not okay.
Like our flight.
There was no room in the inn. Oh my God. Marriott.
The next place you call, tell them they'll take the stay.
That's kind of easy to remember. Then I often say thank you. That's personal. Personal. Yeah. And then yes and no, that is igen is yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll start our tour right here by the river Wisła. This is the longest river we have. It flows from the south of Poland, where it starts not far from Kraków, passes the whole country and finishes in the Baltic Sea. That's about one.
And now we are in the oldest part and in the center of the Jewish quarter in Kraków, or actually where the Jewish quarter used to be before the war.
based on, so what we're looking at in front of us is the Bema, where they read the Torah and synagogue worship. And what's neat about this one is it's in the shape of a kippah, which is the symbolic tomb where you perform a wedding, a Jewish wedding. And so the idea here is in reading the Torah, the congregation is reenacting the commitment of love between God and God's people every Sabbath.
Under Nazi Roman occupation. That's very important to understand because very often people think that they could see here Schindler's factory. The factory was here. But this building where we are now, that's the former administrative building of Schindler's factory. During our tour, we can see Schindler's office or the place from the movie Schindler's List. Have you seen the movie? Okay, so you should recognize these places, but the most important thing is that you are going to see everything, whole story. About Prague, about the occupation, and also the story about Oskar Schindler. Decided to run away. Where? To the east. Some of them came back after 2 days, some of them did not because they met the Soviet, the Russian army. On 17th September 1939, Poland was also entered by the Soviet army. You probably know that before the war, Hitler and Stalin signed the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. This was the non-aggression pact, but inside there was a secret protocol which divided Poland and divided Europe between them. So I hope that at the end of the corridor we are going to see the map which shows the invasion of Poland, and you will see the situation in Poland in September and at the beginning of October 1939. The corridor is 39 and you can see two colors. This red part, which was under German occupation, and this blue part, which was under Soviet, the Russian occupation. Okay, the map will go from the beginning. And as I said, Hitler attacked Poland on 1st September 1939. Prague was entered on 6th September 1939.
Can you begin to put some words to that?
I know that it has been my #1 thing on my bucket list for my entire life to do what we did yesterday. And I'm so grateful to have gotten the experience, honestly, because I never thought in a million years that I would actually get to do it. And I've had kind of, over the experience, I've kind of looked at where I'm headed with my life and what I want to use, because I am an early childhood education major. And it does give me such a wonderful opportunity to be able to shed light on that situation as a personal experience now, because I've been here and I can tell them about it.
Well, I think it was kind of an honor and privilege to be able to walk through those camps, because there's a lot of people out there who really want to get to know everything about World War II but aren't able to make the trip out internationally. And I feel very privileged to be a part of this group. And for years now, I've always been interested in World War II, and I'm following in my dad's footsteps. He's been studying about it too, and my dad said he was very proud of me for taking a step my freshman level, to go internationally with all of you guys, and to be able to understand what actually happened. And when we walk through, we think we know what happened, but the people who actually went through it know the real thing. And I'm glad I was able to get that experience walking through.
And along with the experience of actually doing it, I enjoyed having different tour guides with us, like Andrea, she's German, or she's from around there. And all the tour guides, they have the German accent, so it was interesting. Like when we were coming back from that, Andrea was talking about how like she and other people like her aren't proud to be German, and they say that their heritage isn't something that they like to boast about because of the whole thing. So that was interesting to hear their side about it, I guess. And then mostly just because that's basically my passion, but she said that during the World Cup in 2006, that people that were Jewish or weren't proud of being Germans, they came out of their shell and they were able to say, I'm German, despite everything that's happened. We can put that aside and we can cheer for something that we're all passionate about. So that was really interesting to be able to meet people from around this area.
Looking at history from a broader perspective, like right now we are in the Czech Republic, and yes, there was a terrible event that happened 70 odd years ago here. What about what happened in Rwanda? What happened in Argentina? What happened in Guatemala? What about all these other millions of compromises that end up in final solutions?
My family has grown up in that, so it's still going on, and it's still going on today. People are still being killed because of race. So
to actually be there. I mean, I walked the sands of Normandy, and you can feel emotion there, but it's nothing like when I walked through the gates at Auschwitz. Because unlike a battlefield where two sides know what's going on, you're walking into a place where there's only one power that's truly in control of that ground, and it is death. And you can kind of feel some of the residual emotion, perhaps, from those people who were there. And it's hard. And it's going to be even harder to try and explain that to people who aren't there with us. But perhaps that's something we should strive to do so that we can help stop the lynchings and stop all this mess that's going on in our world today. It's not enough just to share the knowledge, it's got to be the emotion, it's got to be the experience, because that's what really makes the difference.
Like I was like sick. I was like, like these people saw this sign and they knew that they were headed straight for death. And even though some of them survived, you don't know that when you walk under that gate. you have no clue what's going to happen to you. Your life is completely in someone else's hands. And it's just so, I can't even describe it now. I was just sick. I was like, all of these people walked through this gate. They saw this sign and were completely stricken with fear for their lives, for their children's lives, for their families' lives. And they had no clue if they were coming back out. And we got to walk back out.
It actually opened up my mind to certain things. Like I've already had an open mind growing up, but it really, really opened up my mind seeing those things. And it's like, this is what humans can do. This is what we can do. We can turn a whole group of people against another group of people just like that. Good people against other people because of a certain religion, race, sexual orientation, etc. We can do that just like that. It's crazy. And that's what opened up my mind to that. Like I've already had that open mind, and I already knew that humans and the instinct can turn against each other. But that really, the proof right there in my face, it really, really moved me. And now I can go home and tell my family about it. Like this is a real thing. Like we can't deny it. It actually happened, and I've seen it.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
I think we would do well to get some sleep now. Okay, so.
Okay.
Better be on the bus by 8:40 tomorrow, because we're gonna do a walking tour of historic Praha in the castle.
Who's more fun?
Me.
Things
I've
like
heard
that.
there's kind of a fun-off between you and Reverend Gabbard.
Well,
Is
right,
this
and
an
that's
ongoing-
that's no contest. I'm sorry, Reverend Gabbard, but